Welcome to this week's edition of Taiwan Outlook. I'm the host, Chi-Chen Lo. In light of the rising prices of oil and natural resources, plus the subprime crisis in the United States, people tend to have very pessimistic views about the future prospect of global economy. People even fear that we are now moving into a period of stagflation. So is that kind of pessimism warranted? Especially as the key and driving forces for the global economy, the development of the financial sector, especially the investment banking sector, deserve careful and greater attention. In today's program, we are very delighted to invite the Vice President and President of Greater China of Investment Banking of Polaris Financial Group, Mr. C.Y. Huang, to come to our program. And Mr. Huang has over 20 years of experience in investment banking, leading numerous transactions in Taiwan, China, and Hong Kong, including IPO, secondary offering, private placement, and merger and acquisition. Let's welcome Mr. Huang. Mr. Huang, welcome to our program.
Hello, Mr. Lo. Hello, everyone. It is my great pleasure to be here today.
So, do you share the pessimism that people have with regard to the future prospect of the regional and global economy?
Of course, given so much thing happen lately, globally and across the region, there's certainly a reason to be cautious.
Mm-hmm.
The Taiwan economy is very much driven by two engines. One is the global engine, the global economy. We see that the subprime crisis has caused a great impact on the U.S. economy, mm-hmm. Not only the banking sector. For the Taiwan part, we haven't see the direct impact on the banking sector per se. Mm-hmm. But however, we could certainly feel that the economy is very much related with what's going on in the globally in the United States. We can see the consumer spending mm-hmm. coming down. People are more cautious, and a lot of Taiwanese corporations, especially those mm-hmm. electronics corporations, their fate is very much linked to the global economy. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, another engine driving the Taiwan's mm-hmm. growth is China. So Taiwan, many Taiwanese companies have made investment in China mm-hmm. in the last 15 years. Mm-hmm. But we know that as China moving into a new phase, Taiwanese companies are also mm-hmm. facing a different degree of impact in China. For mm-hmm. example, China this year, passed the new labor law. They have the impose strict environmental standard, mm-hmm. and then also that there are the taxation benefit mm-hmm.
may
may not be as strong as in the past. So all of these factors together create a new challenge mm-hmm. for Taiwanese companies.
Do you have concerns that we are now moving into a period of so-called stagflation?
I think the economy will definitely the slower but however I think that if Taiwanese company could find ways to innovation as well as find new ways to transform themselves, mm-hmm. I think there are certainly examples of a company mm-hmm. that can find their own way to survive. To give you some example, yeah. The Acer, their brand name is now the number 3 notebook manufacturer in the world. Mm-hmm. Asus, they have the low price, the EPC, which was a blowout, in the States, and also one of the handset company and a high-tech computer. Mm-hmm. They just roll out the new machine. That they have, which is a huge success, and they have many collaboration mm-hmm. with international leading telcos. Mm-hmm. So I think yes, they are impact, but on the other hand, if the companies can keep innovating mm-hmm. themselves, find new business model, they will find a way to survive.
But as we know that Taiwan's electronic industry depends very much on the U.S. market, but as a result of the subprime crisis, people tend to be more conservative or even cautious in spending their money. How does that affect Taiwan's electronic industry?
Well, as I addressed earlier, the companies are facing the margin squeeze, and the revenue growth is also slowing down. So mm-hmm. certain companies, they have to either have a new product. Yeah. For example, the Asus EPC is targeting at a low price segment, or they need to get into the new markets. Mm-hmm. China, in the past, Taiwanese companies try to view China as a manufacturing hub. But mm-hmm. however, I think the new objective for Taiwanese company in China is how to sell goods.
That's right.
To PRC Chinese. So that is a new challenge. So mm-hmm. Yes and no. well, I think companies just have to keep finding a new way, in order to survive.
And one of the reasons for the trouble that the U.S. has now is the subprime crisis. So how serious is the subprime crisis? Are we ain't see the worst yet, or are we getting better?
Well, they are, different view, different opinion, but I think we are, halfway, or through the crisis, but of course, a lot of large commercial banks and investment banks have huge write-down, for the subprime, that in fact affect companies like Citibank, Merrill, UBS, to name a few. And so that is the first wave. And the second wave, now we are seeing that, that impacting some of the companies who haven't been hurt so much in the first wave, like companies like Wachovia, Credit Suisse, But I don't think it is entirely over. But I think, certainly, the worst part is over. The companies are now trying to find a way to coming out of this crisis. And certainly there's a new degree, a sense of risk, by all the global financial institutions. Of course, that new measure, in treating risk is also gonna affect all the corporations. So as the banks become more cautious, their lending behavior gonna slow down. So everybody will be affected.
That's right. But as you know that they were for the past few years, they have been seeing this kind of rising markets in India, in Brazil, in Russia, and even in China as well, so-called BRIC. And are you still very optimistic about the rising markets in those countries?
Well, the emerging market is not totally immune, from the global crisis. All of the four markets that you mentioned, they all have some degree of impact. The BRIC, Brazil, Russia, India, China. This year, Brazil seems to be doing particularly well, due to the global rising commodity prices. But however, China kind of slowed down a bit. Last year, China's Asia market was phenomenal. It was the best performing market in Asia or even in the world. And this year, it has dropped something like 40%. Compared with its high last year, it dropped 50%. India, we see amazing strengths. The engine seems to keep rolling. In certain aspect, India's performance is even stronger, than China. Plus, it is an English-speaking country. You see many global Indian companies like the Meta, like Tata. All of these companies competing globally, and also not to mention the IT outsourcing companies in India. And also Russia, I think they are benefiting from the oil. So all of these companies, I think they have certain aspect of them are doing particularly well, and that help their economy to sustain.
How about the existing economies, such as Korea, Japan, including Taiwan? What's your view on their economic prospects?
The economy, for the region, I think, especially Korea and Taiwan, we are all facing tremendous challenges. The Korea economy, this year you see the new president, Mr. Lee, he has all these ambitious 747 agenda, but that has not doing particularly well. He is facing a lot of protests domestically from their people. Taiwan, people have a lot of expect, especially after May 20th, the inauguration of Mr. Ma. But now is the time for really the fulfilling the promises.
That's right.
If you're looking at the stock market per se, of course, the market is in the last 2 weeks is in line with the global market. So it hasn't really reflect the good prospect. We believe that Taiwan, the cabinet, if that allows the people, to communicate more freely with mainland China, that will give a lot of boost to the economy in the future. There's certainly there are more reason to be optimistic about Taiwan. But we need to be careful not to turn this into a euphoria. We have to remember, anyway, that Taiwan has in the last 8 years, going through some very challenge, both domestically as well as the challenge elsewhere. So we need to be careful. But I think the near-term prospect is positive for Taiwan.
That's right. But for the past decade also, we have poured a lot of money into the China market. But in recent months, people have been saying that money from Taiwan are now leaving China. Do you think that's the case?
I don't think the money are leaving, China, because the Taiwan is good. And the money are leaving China for several reasons. The first, the Chinese is upgrading, PRC China is upgrading its economy. So those Taiwanese companies that are in the low value added, high pollution sort of a category, that will find it very difficult to survive. Some of them decided to transfer to Vietnam. Some of them have to shut down completely. But very few of them, I think, is just coming back because they see that the Taiwan market economy suddenly turns good. But we do see a number of Taiwanese companies in China. They are willing to invest back in Taiwan because they have a new focus in Taiwan. Maybe not so much in manufacturing, but they find, for example, the real estate, the service economy, and there are some of the new direction of Taiwan, which made them feel positive. So we see that it is a beginning of a new trend of companies in mainland China going back to Taiwan, step by step.
The reason for the fast-growing global economy is the money, global money, international money, going to the market and to give the money to the people who industry need to develop their economy. So when we come back, we'll talk about investment banking, especially the trend and development of this sector, and how does that influence or help the global economy.
Sure.
So don't go away. We'll be back after these messages.